Hello and welcome. Today we're going to review the SkyViper v2450 GPS streaming drone. It is SkyViper's famous v2450 but with a GPS module on board. And it has now returned to home, geofencing, and several other neat features along with the HD, FPV, and great flight that this is known for. So let's check it out. It comes in this really cool box depicting all the features it has here. And then if you look here in the back, you see more of the features here: position hold, GPS enabled, and so on and so forth. This is pretty cool. It says here no FAA registration required. So that's pretty neat, and it lists all the things that it comes with. So let's open it up and check it out here. Let's see. Here, let's slide out this box here. Once you finish opening up the box, it is essentially laid out like this, where you have the quadcopter, the cell phone mount, transmitter, propeller guards, instruction manuals, and a couple of baggies with spare propellers and the charger and all the other little accessories. You'll notice in the box there may be this red important note that basically tells you not to take off until you have a GPS lock, until the GPS signal is solid green, or if you're indoors, not to fly with GPS mode on. So that's basically it. Now, if you bought, there's another package of this that comes with FPV goggles. That's the additional accessory that it has, and you would put your cell phone in that and you would fly FPV. In this little compartment here in the back, you have your two little baggies here. One of them has 4 extra spare propellers, and then this one here has the charger, extra set of thumbsticks that you can attach to the transmitter, and a screwdriver here to change the propellers or to screw anything else additional. Also, you'll see that there's some screws in there, extra screws in case you need that. So that's right there. Then you've got your instruction manuals, so definitely want to look through that as well. Here are your extra blade guards, your cell phone mount that goes with the transmitter. And let's take this moment to actually go through that. Installing the mount is very simple, straightforward. You just clamp it in here like this, like so. A very simple transmitter actually. This is the power button. This is your throttle and rudder. This is your mode button, and it basically switches from indoor mode, which is no GPS, to GPS mode. And the colors of the indicators here are either red for indoor or green for GPS. Return to home. And then you have your video button and your photo button right here. Now this transmitter takes 3 AA batteries. So you unscrew this with the included screwdriver and you will have 3 AA batteries that you would put in there. I noticed that they removed the trims here, so that's one thing to be aware of. Another thing, this does not have a dedicated flip button. So this one doesn't appear to flip. On the box it says that it has 4 times the range. So yes, it has a very good range now. Now let's take a look at the star of the show, the v2450 GPS. This is a cool looking quadcopter. It has its 720p HD camera here in the front, and it is movable. You can move it upwards or downwards. You can see it says GPS there on the top. It has its quick swap battery port here on the bottom. Now the batteries are, or the battery it came with is a 3.7 volt 1200 milliamp LiPo battery, and they do provide a very good flight time of about 10 minutes, possibly a little more. Here is your spot or bay for the SD card. I think it supports up to a 64 gig SD card. Unfortunately, it does not come with an SD card, and it does not come with an SD card adapter. So you will have to purchase those separately. And it has lights on the bottom, green lights in the front, red lights in the back. Although it's not an excellent night flyer because the lights are only at the bottom. They're not visible from all the angles of the quadcopter. These are brushed coreless motors, so they are very efficient, very quiet, but they are brushed. They're not brushless motors, so they're a little safer. Now, setting this up for its first flight, first step is you definitely want to plug the battery into the slot here, and that's the first step. Then the next step is you turn on the transmitter. You might have to keep this pressed for a second. And once it pairs, you'll see the green GPS light blinking. So you see that blinking, and you also notice that the lights on the quadcopter illuminate a little more than usual. Now, if you plan on flying this indoors, you can immediately just switch it to indoor and push mode. But if you plan on flying it outdoors and you're actually outdoors exposed to the clouds and the sun, then you can push this, and then it'll just start looking for satellites, and then it'll turn a bright green once it's locked on. Now, you do not have to use your cell phone here to get GPS lock. You might need the cell phone for the geofencing, but if you don't use it, you can still fly this in perfect GPS. But to set up the cell phone, it's very straightforward. Basically, you go into your Wi-Fi settings here. You'll find Sky Viper GPS. So what you do is you connect to that. Now, I've already put in the default password, so it connected automatically. But the first time you do this, you probably have to enter the default password, which is Viper GPS. V-I-P-E-R GPS. Then once it's connected, you go to the app, and the app looks like this. It's the Sky Viper video app. You can find it in the Android or iOS store. Sky Viper also has other apps, one of which is a flight simulator. And so you can use that to actually virtually fly this quadcopter before you actually fly it in real life. But for right now, we're just gonna enter in here. And then it'll start connecting. You just say okay there. And then it'll have some pop-ups. Now, the first time you connect to this, there probably will be a firmware update, and it's very straightforward. You just follow the instructions on the app, and it will guide you through the steps of updating the firmware. It's very simple. It's done through the air, through Wi-Fi, and it'll update the transmitter firmware and the firmware on the quadcopter. So this is the FPV mode here. You can see it already has a transmission here. And the range of the FPV is fairly good. It's not the best. Once it goes past, I think, couple hundred meters, it will probably lose connection with the FPV. So the range is not great of the FPV, but the range of flight is definitely pretty good. I'd say maybe 400 to 500 meters. I'd have to officially test that out, but it did fly very far out and very high. So now you have other features here in the app here. You can look at your captured photos and videos here. You've got information here, tutorial videos, user manuals, controls. So it tells you more information on the controls and you know, other things to that effect. I think you have a flight log here. So this right here tells you flight activity, how long you've flown for, how high, how far, so on and so forth. If pictures were taken, how many pictures, and each flight is logged in here in a table. And then this should be your FPV screen. And the FPV screen gives you pretty good telemetry. It shows you how many satellites you're connected to, if GPS mode is enabled, how long you've been flying, how far you're out, how high you are, so on and so forth. It shows you a little map, how much battery you've got, your compass bearings. Now that's an interesting little note on this with the GPS. I've noticed that there's really no compass calibration with this quadcopter. So that's something to keep an eye on. It has GPS, it gets GPS lock, but so far at any point I have not seen a prompt to do compass calibration. So now let's take this out for a flight and look at the flight footage.